I'd like to call to order the City Council Budget Workshop, Saturday, January 25th, 2025 at 8 a.m. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, guys, there's coffee and donuts and cream horns over here. You'll have to pour your creamer in there and stir it with a fork because I can't find a spoon in the building. Okay, Brian's first.
Morning.
Morning, Brian.
Everybody should have a summary sheet that I've put together for you. This is the FY 2026 Public Works Budget Summaries. Try to make this a little easier from going down the worksheets. We're going to start with sewer maintenance. And what I've summarized is the line items that have changed or that we've decided to change for this year. On our line item 3220, we increased the budget $46,000. Our building out at 249 Carbide Lane is in need of a new roof, and that's the same. It's our sewer maintenance building with our office in it, and then also the animal control building, or it's one building, and we had it looked at a month or two ago, and it's in need. Next line item, we've decreased on the 6331. We decreased $2,555 decrease to reflect actual costs. 6420, we decreased $600 to reflect actual costs. 6380, we decreased $5,600, increased $5,600 to reflect costs. 6490, we increased 6,000 or decreased 6,000 to reflect actual costs. The 6499 line item is we would like to increase that $75,000. Back when the ADM and then the EPA came and a previous administrator had emptied that account, which totaled about $480,000, and moved it to wastewater treatment to cover the EPA fines. This is the account we use for sewer emergencies, like the collapse we had over here on 6th. And so we'd like to start rebuilding that fund. I have spoke with Tom Wills about that. The monies where we'd like to get the monies from is where he's collecting his pre-treatment plan rates from the industries. So budget difference with those, basically with those two line items increasing so much is a plus $115,226. Sewer maintenance has no end-of-life equipment at this time, so we have no capital requests out of that department.
Brian, for that emergency fund that you want to start to rebuild, where is the goal to have that sit at? How many years will it take to get it there?
Talking with Michael, I think we would be comfortable somewhere in that 100 to 150,000 range. I don't necessarily think we need to build it back up to almost a 500,000 right now. So in the next couple years, knock on wood, hopefully we don't have any
Mhm.
sewer collapses, but we have a roughly 150-year-old infrastructure with our sewer. So
Mhm.
it's nice to have that in there and not have to, like this one right now, we still have some work to do on it. We're upwards of $40,000 in the repair on it. We still have to pave the alley. We're looking at putting a new storm line in because we had to detach the roof drains from the building from our sanitary line. So we'd like to catch them and run them into the storm sewer out in 6th. So we're probably looking at an additional $25,000 to finish that repair. And that will happen sometime this spring when the weather breaks.
Mhm.
Any other questions on the sewer department?
Yeah, I might. Okay, so line 6380, your list says there's a 5,600 increase. But on the packet for 6380, it still says 10,000 current, 10,000 new. So should it be 15,600 for
Uh,
new?
I'd have to double check on our notes with Celeste, I'm not sure.
On the maintenance.
Okay. That could be a mistake on my part. Did we increase that?
No, I don't think we increased that.
Okay.
I think
That'd been an error on my part. Sorry about that.
It should be the 15,000.
Oh, okay, so
Oh, we are
there's,
keeping, okay.
so we'll cross out the line for the increase,
Yep.
okay? So then the budget difference line will decrease on your summary,
By that.
we'll decrease it by 5,600.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Anything else on the sewer? Oh, I guess I forgot the wages and benefits. We don't calculate. That's done in the clerk's office. So those are entered upstairs and not through our department heads.
I have a question. For the new roof, do you know when the current roof was put on there? How long did we get out of it?
It's the original. I'd have to
Original
look
one?
and see how old the building is, but long time ago.
Okay, that,
It's a-
I mean, that
it's
helps.
It's old enough to where the roof's galvanized and not the new style of metal roofing. That's an estimate, yeah. We haven't went out and got bids yet. This is just our budgetary number to use. Yes,
It's gonna be 40, 50 years old.
So it'll be replaced this upcoming year, for sure.
yeah,
Okay. And I think you already mentioned, but I was reading everything, but you said it would cover the part for the animal
yeah, it's all
services too.
one building.
Yeah.
So we'll do the whole thing. It's not as noticeable inside animal control because they have a drop ceiling in there.
Mhm.
Our side of the building's just open to the roof. The insulation's starting to fall down because of the moisture getting into it, and it's just not a very safe environment.
Thank you.
All right, up next is the airport. And you can stop me on any of these if you've got questions on the specific line item we're talking about also. 6310, the $10,400 increase for miscellaneous building repairs. 6373, $100 reduction for actual cost in the phone and internet service. 6374, we have a $50 decrease for the actual cost of water bill. 6599, a $3,000 increase for contract services. At the request of the Airport Commission, they would like to outsource getting the office cleaned monthly, and that's be the estimate for the whole year. 6710, we had a $103,605 decrease. Those are our grant dependent expenses.
Do you want us to ask questions at the end or on each one?
You can go.
Okay, so on line item 6599, your increase says 3,000, but the packet only goes from 3,000 to 4,000. So it shows only a 1,000 increase.
It should be a 3,000 increase.
Okay, so it should go from 3,000 to 6,000 on the packet.
Yes.
So that should be 6,000.
Kirk.
6599.
Mm-hmm.
So you want
I show an, oh, I'm sorry. $64.99 is that increase.
Okay,
Okay, so the number.
that makes sense. 499. Meaning-
I don't believe we're advertising for anything out there. For the airport?
There's a spam post
Oh,
floating around right now. I also did about 6 months ago. I don't know who posted it. But I get back phone calls.
so that was not us posting a position.
I won't advertise it through Facebook. Yeah, the first post, I commented on it. The second one, I haven't found it yet.
Mm-mm.
So $65.99 is plus $1,000. I left out the $64.99 on my summaries. And then our decrease to capital reflects the match monies we would need for FY26 for the runway project. And then also that would include replacing our multi-use tractor that we use for mowing and snow removal. So our budget difference is minus 93,380.
So you said line 6599, it does have a 1,000 increase.
Yes.
So what would that be for? Because
Just-
it wasn't on
just
your list.
Supplies.
Supplies?
That's
Okay.
our miscellaneous supplies line item.
So it wasn't on your list, so we need to add it to your summary, right? So your difference would be 94,380?
I would have to double check that because I do have it highlighted on my actual budget sheet.
Okay.
That it was changed.
So in line 6710, the majority of that decrease is due to grant projects where we've done certain aspects
So
of it that aren't.
yeah,
being
we
done
use
again.
that when we presented the 5-year cap plan for the airport, and it has all those matching monies.
Mhm.
That is where that money come from. Last year, there was a higher amount of matching monies if we chose to do those projects. The FAA dropped their match to 5% instead of 10%. So that lowered the amounts that we would need for, I believe next year is just the runway project, right? And, yeah, runway lighting project.
And so then out of that same line item, we are replacing a tractor. So when we look at a decrease of roughly 100,000, how much of that also has a corresponding decrease on the revenue side? So with the tractor, I'm assuming that would all be our money, 100%, as opposed to anything
Yes.
grant-based. So when you, just your rough estimate, when you compare what we're spending versus, I guess, the revenue side of just that particular line item, do you still see that line item being positive or negative?
I mean, we haven't done anything with revenues yet this budget season, so I'm going to assume positive since we lowered it so much.
Okay. We'll just have to note that, and when we get to revenues, double.
So
check
as we
on
go
that.
down through here, we have capital requests out of the street department and also the sanitation we're gonna have to look at when we
Yeah.
get to the revenue side too, so.
Yep, understandable. I just was trying to figure out how much of that was just a pass-through of grant dollars.
Yeah, so we did not spend, well, if you look at our cap on your budget sheet, we had budgeted last year 291,640. To date, we've only spent 32,000 of that. And then we have the hangar project is gonna happen so we'll have a match for it still out of that 291.
Okay.
We'll move to road use tax, the street department. Starting with 6499 contractual services, we bumped it up $3,000. 6504, we bumped up $1,500.
On the same packet.
I think we need to make sure it's the same packet, just the next page as the airport one. Okay. We gotta make sure we're all looking on the same page here.
Okay. So I'll start again. 6499, we increased it $3,000. 6504 has a $1,500 increase. And down to 6799, that is the monies we use for our patching and oiling. We increased it 65,000. We are in need to dredge our boat ramp. Last year we were unable to put the docks in because of the high waters for basically the whole summer. It has completely been silted in. So we've actually already sent out requests for proposals from contractors. So we'll end up doing that this spring out of the leftover, and then we'll repay that back FY26 for our summer maintenance for the roadways. Hopefully, we're not in floodwaters, and by Memorial Day, we can put the docks in. So for the rest of these, I've broken it down to our operating budget difference, and then capital will be in addition to, because we're not guaranteed to get all of our capital approved. So our operating difference is plus 95. And then on the next page is where we'll go into our capital request. Our total capital equipment request is $420,000. These are listed in order of need. Our knuckle boom mower, this has been on the list for replacement for the last couple of years. We can no longer get parts for it. That's an estimate of $150,000. That's the mower that we use to mow right-of-ways with the big arm that sticks out. Yeah, it's got a big arm that sticks out. It's a early 80s model tractor. We're also requesting a new dump truck for the street department, which would be we would be replacing an 89 dump truck and a 99 dump truck with the one new dump truck. And those are equipped with snow plows and the spreaders and that on the back. And then we're also requesting to replace a pickup plow truck that would replace we're replacing a 1989 pickup and a 2001 pickup. Our internal discussions we've been having this spring, we are going to have a public works auction. We have a bunch of equipment like these dump trucks, pickup trucks, other equipments in various departments we're going to do inventory on, and we're going to just auction them off because they're really doing us no good sitting there. So that will help recoup some of our capital expenditures.
With these two truck examples, where you're replacing two with one, were the two that would be replaced both in service recently, or is, like you said, one's just been sitting for a long time and we've only been using
I believe the
one or
one's
the other?
been
or-
sitting for a while, hasn't it?
We use quite a bit, but
The one's actually got a bent frame, so
Mhm.
it's not,
Yeah, but it's not gonna like impact your ability to get the job done by getting rid of two and only bringing in one.
um, so vehicle maintenance, this comes out of the same department. We just have a $2,500 increase for actual costs and inflation rates on 6507. We had a capital software request out of there, but we had money in the budget to go ahead and purchase that this year. We had to update software to be able to plug into our police cars for maintenance and just in general for is it for the Dodges?
yeah, pretty much.
To be able to code them out and work on them. Snow removal, we didn't make any changes. Street cleaning, we didn't make any changes to the budget. Have any other questions on road use tax? If not, we'll move on to Parks Department. 6331, we reduced $1,500 to reflect our actual cost. 6350, we increased by $100 just to put some money in that account. It's been zeroed out the last couple of years and we do spend a little out of that. $6412 is a $50 decrease. our 02 account that's on there, 02-430-6727. That is the account where we take in donations for benches, trees, that kind of thing that go into the parks. I work with Annette on that. We're anticipating an increase, a 15,000 increase in the donations that come in. It's will we print the 02 account?
No, I don't think we have that in front of us.
We can get that sent to you. Because it's basically a pass-through we use that account for, like I said, for the donations that come in. Somebody requests a park bench with their family name on it, and then they give us the money, we buy the bench and then install it in the park.
Would this be the Rand Park?
It's
Or
for
is it
any-
just strictly parks in
Any
general?
park.
So it's just in any park?
Mhm.
And this is just, like you said, just funds people have donated specifically earmarked for parks?
Yep.
Okay.
So they can put it in Tolme, you can request any park.
I knew we had a Rand Park, one that we can only obviously use for Rand Park, and that's why I was curious. This one, at least, there's no distinction. It's just anything you guys need it for.
We actually get quite a few for Bentley's Playground. There's a lot of benches out there.
Okay. Good.
And it doesn't have to be a bench. We had the new viewing telescope deal down at Victory Park. That was donated through this fund too. And then like the Marody Shelter House and that, when that family donates to us, that passes through this account. Capital equipment. So we have listed for our new trail project, we would like to get a side-by-side specifically for maintenance on the trail. That can come from, well, there's lots of different funding sources for that. We could actually buy that out of hotel motel tax because it's for economic development and tourism for the trail. What was our other, is that the only request for parks? Yeah. So in that line item, it shows, we're over $1 million in that, but that is the money for the trail project that we already have. So we keep rolling it over. As of right now, we're projected for a May bid letting for that. So hopefully that goes this year.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
A May bid letting for that trail, for
May,
these
okay.
trail monies, yeah. Because it's been in there for a couple years.
So for the capital equipment, it says 90,000 increase. Should that just be 45,000 for the side by side, or what's the difference for?
Yes, I believe so.
So just 45, okay?
Because the other side by side was cemetery. Have anything else in the Parks Department? I'll get these summaries corrected and then email them out to you. Moving on to the bridge. 6320, we did a $20,000 decrease. That's a fund that we use for our maintenance and upgrades that the Federal Rail Administration has us do. We've gotten quite a bit of those done in the last couple of years, so we don't anticipate spending as much in the next upcoming year. We have a $2,000 decrease on 6332. 6350, we have a $6,000 decrease. 6371, a $2,500 decrease. 6380, a $4,500 decrease. And these are all reflecting what we've historically been spending in the last couple of years.
And so you're saying you don't anticipate many maintenance projects this coming year because we've done
Yeah.
enough over the last handful of years?
We have received a digital copy of our current inspection report. When we get the hard copies, we'll hand them out too. Really not much changed from the previous year. $6412, $150 increase. $6413, a $4,500 increase. Sorry, decrease. Yeah, we're going from 5,000 to 500.
That was payments to other agencies. So
Yeah.
what are we not doing this year we've done in the past with that one?
Well, if you look back through the last 3 budgets, we've only spent about $50 out of that account. So
Okay.
we've been lowering it over the last couple of years. $6490, a $15,000 decrease for professional services. And that's just reflecting on where we'll be at, at year to date, we've only spent $9,000 out of that. So that kind of correlates with not having to do the maintenance repairs. Office supplies, 6506, we decreased $250. And 6599, we decreased $2,500. And then we have no end of life or capital requests out of the bridge department. Cemetery. $6371, $1,000 decrease. $6413, a $500 decrease. $6420, an $800 decrease. 6504, it's a $3,500 decrease. And 6506 is a $300 decrease.
Actually, 6504 looks to be a $4,000 decrease. If your numbers, you went from 75 to 35.
Oh,
So that would actually be another $500 if that's correct.
Thank you. Capital equipment, we're asking $60,000 to replace a side-by-side, which is 34.4 of that. And then we would like to buy a new subcompact tractor for the cemetery department, which will assist them in graves and backfilling. Right now, they try to do all of that out of the back of a side-by-side with shovels. It's not,
Because we don't actually have a small tractor like that
Mm-mm.
earmarked for the cemetery, do we? Whenever they have to take a tractor out there, they've got to pull one from somebody else.
Yep.
Is that correct?
and then we don't have, you don't have one with a bucket anyways, do we, in your department?
And
Not
you're
a
looking
small-
at something like a 60, 70 horse
Yeah.
with a front end bucket, potentially even a small backhoe attachment, or you think you need that?
I think we're looking for a mower. It'll have a mower attachment and then the front bucket and an auger.
Okay.
So we'll use the auger. We actually dig the holes for the urns
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
And
Well,
right now they do it by a hand. It gets pretty hard on them guys in the winter when they have to do that, when they have to do the whole.
Would you keep the current side by side then, or would that be auctioned off with the other items you talked about earlier? The side by side that you want to
We would
replace?
probably trade it in
Trade it in? Okay.
unless you were moving departments. So we wouldn't get rid, we would either trade that in or move it to a different department. It's our old, like one of the oldest ones we have.
And that wouldn't be like the same thing you want to get for the trail?
So it would have different attachments on it.
Okay.
So
I-
the trail would have a roto broom on it for cleaning up after the geese. And then it would have a snow plow and then a spreader on the back. The one for the cemetery would not have the rotor broom with it. We would still have the snow plow attachment and the spreader.
Is it something we can just add the broom to the one for the cemetery and then move it for the trail?
I think it's a different model that I don't think the one out there can get a rotor broom on it, can it? No. It's not a very big one, the
Okay.
one we're replacing.
Okay.
Moving on to sanitation. So we have no change in any of the line items. But we are looking at replacing a garbage truck, which we have budgeted for 450,000. We have 3 garbage trucks in the city, 2 that are 2 newer ones that we try to run full-time, but one of those break down, we have the backup. The backup truck is a 90s model that is in not very good shape. So when they bought the 2 brand new trash trucks, they bought them both at the same time. We would like to get on a cycle and split those up. So we're looking at buying a new one, moving the one that we use now that's in the worst shape to our backup. Because if we have a trash truck go down, then we can't finish the routes in one day. And we make a lot of trips to the dump. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we just did have one go down with the canister on it that we had to get repaired. So then we do use the backup one. Yes. So that's we're also asking to buy a compactor truck for recycle. Right now our guys use a flatbed pickup and move everything by hand, and we've got to tarp it down, and it's not efficient. We make a lot of trips back and forth to get through one recycle day. funding for that. We've kind of kicked around internally of maybe charging for recycle, whether it's $1 a month, $2 a month. Right now, we provide that service for free to the community, which costs us $200,000 to $400,000 a year, depending on the amount of recycling we dump. It's about $10,000 a month that we pay just to dump the recycling. So we're kicking that around. That's something we'll probably have get together with finance committee here in the next couple months and throw some ideas around and see if we want to do that. So last summer, we did enact an ordinance that's raising our garbage rates every year. It's like $2 a year, maybe, somewhere in that, $2 a month. So those will raise again in the beginning of the fiscal year. And I think we did that for 5 years to help out. Yep. Last year, they went up $1.25 for tipping fees. I haven't heard what they're gonna do this fiscal year yet, but I'm sure they'll raise them again.
A few years back, we talked about a recycle truck. And I think it was, did it have an arm? Like it was almost like a mini garbage truck, and we didn't move forward with it at that time. What's this truck like? Can you tell us about what the
We haven't
compactor
really
is?
shopped around yet. We have done a little shopping for the actual garbage truck. We think that we're gonna be able to come in quite a bit under the 450, but we just kept that in as a budgetary number. So for the compactor truck, we could get one with an arm, but we would have to switch out the receptacles that we use currently. Right now, Great River Waste gives us the little green boxes. We would have to go more to a can style if we get one with an arm. That would be more beneficial for saving backs on employees, which is kind of why we went to the armed trash trucks and the bigger trash receptacles. So that's going to depend on what kind of vehicle we go with. If we still have to manually throw the recycle in the back, we'd have 2 people in the truck. If we go with the arm, I would say probably just be one driver with that. Maybe two for a while till everything gets running smooth. But like I said, that's something we're kicking around right now, and it's not really a necessity to purchase this year. But if we do decide to charge for recycling, that's what that monies would go towards this truck. And just help offset the cost that the city incurs for it. Yes. So right now, we get those bins donated to us. We would go to Regional Waste and see if they would be willing to donate a big, yeah. We're hoping Regional Waste would donate the new bins also. Right.
And that would just be new bins if the truck had some kind of
Arm.
But if it's just you throw it in the back and it crunches down like a garbage truck, then that wouldn't.
So now we have no compact system. We piled the plastic bottles and everything are piled as high as we can get them with the sidewalls, and then we tarp it. I think for workman's comp, that would be the trend to move away from actual picking up, the bending and the picking.
Well, and I think even efficiency and speed. I mean, you think about the difference, guy driving along, I've watched him even on our street or whatever. And when the pickup truck comes to pick up the recycle, it takes him longer to pick up half as many as it does the trucks to back in there and just go and go and go. And as long as there's not vehicles in the way,
Right.
you know, every once in a while they got to get out and they got to move it enough because the car's in the way or something, so they move it over. But they're not actually, like you said, physically lifting a 200-pound full of garbage potentially
Right.
into a truck.
Is the recycling program pretty utilized? Like, would you say half of the town is participating in it, or how, or is it
Well,
not
we
being
dump,
used?
yeah, like I say, our bill to dump recycling is about $10,000 a month. And recycling is lighter than trash, so that's a lot of plastic. I wouldn't say, I couldn't tell you how many households of the 4,000 or 5,000 households we have, but I would say a third of them. I think if we charge every home, I think they'll do it more. They're paying for it.
So you're gonna charge everybody, even the people who
It'd go
aren't?
right, it'd be like trash. It'd go right on your water bill. So there'd be like $1 on there that says recycle fee.
I'm not in favor of that. I thought you were just charging the people who actually use the program, not making everybody pay for it.
Well, that's something I mean, if we don't do it, we don't do it, but
I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves on this because I think he's just saying that that's something that they've tossed around. I would like to look into it anyway, because I think when we did the first new trucks with the new bins, the way we did it, and we talked about the recycling, I think that they did a study, and I'm going to have to look into it, that people will recycle if they have to pay. People don't recycle if they don't have to. So that was a study done way back when, and I will look for it.
I just have one other question.
uh-huh.
So did you list your items in priority order like you did before? So the garbage truck you would say is the priority?
Yes.
You need that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
With recycling, does city staff have to separate it and sort it?
No,
Okay.
they
So-
do that at the transfer station.
So if we just crunched it all into little cubes and sent it out of
Actually, they
town-
don't do it either. They have a company that comes in, takes the plastic that they want, and the rest of it goes to the dump. So it's not even
Hmm.
the majority of our recyclables, I would say, probably don't. And I don't want to like overstep my bounds speaking, but they have a company comes in, there's a certain number usually on the bottom of a plastic bottle that
Mhm.
certain numbers can be recycled and certain can't. So they sort that and take the ones that they can, and then the rest of them just go to Fort Medicine. Cardboard is cardboard is free for anybody to take out to the local transfer station. Outside of, like you can take your pickup out there and
Mhm.
get rid of your cardboard for free, but
Would there be any change to us not accepting glass if we had different equipment?
yeah, I don't know that we'd want to crunch glass. Right. So that would have to be separated by the homeowner then in a different. Like I said, we can have a different conversation other than a budget meeting to talk about
Okay.
if we're going to do it, if we're going to buy a compact truck and funding and that kind of thing. But the main need right now in the next year or two is going to be a garbage truck. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions on our trash? On this same budget form would be our leachate, which is the north landfill. We increased 6490, $9,700 to cover engineering fees. We decreased 6790, $50,000. We did get the first part of our work done for our DNR mandate that they gave us last year. Part of that engineering fee is going to come up with next steps. So they'll keep doing our reporting to the DNR and go back and forth on what our next steps are going to be we think we got the creek problem solved where we were seeping. We put some new drain tile and stuff out there at the recommendation of the engineers, and they turned all that into the DNR. So we'll just have to wait and see what they come back with their spring inspections.
So we're basically just back to monitoring this
Mhm.
for like years, right?
We will, and my understanding is since we do not own the property, that they will never 100% close it out until we do own the property. And right now, the person that owns it lives in Ohio and has no interest in selling it to us for whatever reason. They can't use it for anything. So yes, we have to, they slow our monitoring down. I think now we're only required twice a year to have the engineers come down and do the monitoring wells and look at our collection system. The Public Works general budget, 6320, a $2,000 increase in professional development. 6240, it's a $2,000 increase in professional development travel. 6331, it's a $1,000 decrease for actual fuel costs. 6332, it's a $1,500 decrease for actual maintenance cost on the vehicles. 6412 is a $250 decrease. So that's the bottom, the plus minus budgets include wages and benefits also. So that number comes from when we get to the admin total, just the difference between this year's budget and last year's budget. Uh, 6313. We decreased $108. I think last year we must have put a typo in there and put 758 instead of 750. 6504 is a $250 decrease. 6508 is a $50 decrease. We have no capital requests out of general public works. We just replaced our last vehicle that we're going to be replacing for quite a while now, so those all should be good. Our flood wall maintenance, we decreased our miscellaneous fund by $1,000. We haven't had to spend any monies out of that the last couple of years, which is good. 6490, we decreased $4,500, and then 6599, we decreased by $1,000. Those are just, we keep those funds in there in case we got to do any maintenance down at, basically on the levee. And luckily, we haven't had to do anything. The one line item that if you, on our electric service, if you look at that, we had a big spike in that last year and I didn't increase it, but the spike was because the pump stations were running for 3 months because of the high waters. Street lighting, traffic lights, and non-rut roadway maintenance, we didn't make any changes. Bulk fuel, we decreased $10,000 to reflect actual costs on 6331. That's our purchasing of fuel for our fleets. So overall, we're anticipating using less fuel this year and next year than we did the last couple of years, which is kind of reflected right now. We're halfway through the year. We're probably around $90,000 for fuel. The Ferris Wheel building, we increased to 6408, $350 to reflect our insurance cost. And that's the one down on Rocat property that we store our City of Christmas stuff in Kathy's house. Or the Bot Millard house that we disassembled is stored in there also. No. Swimming pool, 6310, we increased $2,000 for maintenance. Chemicals, 6501, we increased by $2,500 to reflect actual costs. I believe that was it. So we do have and I didn't put monies in there to do that yet, but the pool is going to need repainted, probably, if not this year, next year. We're going to try to seek outside, hopefully get some outside funding for that. That's kind of one of the things that we would like to ask the Circ Board to help fund when they get that set up, because they're looking for big community projects, and I think that would qualify for that.
Did we do that back in 2020 or 2021 when the pool did not open due to the pandemic? I know we had
I think
talked
they painted
about.
it before that, but it hasn't been on there long enough to be deteriorating like it is. I know the company that they had brought in painted it, left, went out of business, so their warranty was gone. I wasn't here at that time, but from my understanding, they didn't strip it like down to concrete. They just came in and kind of water blasted it and then put a new coat of paint on. So any deficiencies that was in that original is flaking onto the new. And it does affect our filtration system, because we'll get those paint chips in the filters and they have to be cleaned. The George M. Verity, we have no change to its budget. I will mention that we are with, is it the historic? We're working on a grant right now with Chuck Beitzer. We put $50,000 in ARPA funds in that the last couple of years to repaint it. We still have to do the fenders and the paddle wheel. Chuck Peitzer's put together a grant to hopefully fund getting those finished painted here this summer. So we're waiting to hear back on that. Our 301 capital projects, the $1 million decrease in the 6761, that's our street program. That's basically reflecting that 18th Street will be wrapping up hopefully before Memorial Day. So the decrease in that fund is basically reflecting the finished payout of 18th Street. So we're going from the 3.5 million to the 2.5 million of budgeted money. I saved everybody's favorite one for last. The development center. The Union Depot's on here also, but we didn't make any change to their budget. Development Center, 6320, we did a $6,000 increase for building and grounds maintenance. Knock on wood, I think we've got our water issue solved over there. If you can see, we spent a lot of money this fiscal year on building maintenance and repair due to that.
I'm sorry to back up,
Hmm?
but the line 6761 under capital improvement says sidewalk program. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Because that's
Uh,
still set at 20,000.
So it will be, it's 301, 755, 67, 61 on the second page,
755.
755. It's the, on my sheet, it's the top one on the second, on page 2.
Okay, I'm good now. Thank you.
All right. We increased the electrical expense, 6371 to 105 or $10,000 at the Cit Center, just to reflect our actual costs. $64.99, we decreased our contractual services by $7,000. So our overall budget for FY26 for the development center is $162,400.
Is all of that taken out of TIF funds?
No, this is our actual budget that comes from the city. Like, you do a transfer. And I think Emmanuel is working on different options for that, and with TIF and other ways we can support this building. I did get a email for another interested party in renting some office space over there, so that's a plus. I think Carrie and I are going to try to get together and meet with that party next week. But with that comes remodeling fees, so hopefully we can work out something with, he did tell me that they're not in a huge hurry to move into the space, so depending on which space they're looking at, hopefully it's one of the offices that needs minimal work. We've got some on the 3rd floor that basically all they need is flooring and paint, so hopefully that's it. Have any questions on the development center? We did finally get the heat fixed in there. So we finally got the heat fixed. Hopefully, we had the guys down a couple weeks ago. I believe July. So that will have to be revisited, probably. I'm assuming he's gonna come back to council. He is not, he's current on his lease payments, but he has not paid any of the back rent yet. Yeah, he uses a lot of electricity. We'd lose $2,500 in rent, and our utility bill would probably go down about probably $3,000 to $4,000 a month, I would say, depending. I don't know how much he's actually operating right now. That's something we can look into when Amy gets our next round of electric bills. We can look at that and kind of see where he's at. Roquette operates lights and computers. They really don't use it's not sucking a whole lot of juice as compared to the freeze dryers. So we did have Moorfields look at that. It didn't make sense for them because kind of, the way that we were looking at working it, they provide everything for free and then they get the energy credits. They didn't think there was enough roof space to make it beneficial for them. Not that if the city wanted to take on the expense, not that it still wouldn't be beneficial to us, but they actually did a study for all of our buildings, for this building, the Sid Center, I think for pretty much all of our buildings, if they were feasible to put solar on. But for their benefit, I don't think it worked out for them.
I think they also decided that they had to put it on the ground.
Over there?
Yeah.
I think that could be
That
true.
it had to be in the parking lot, and they decided that maybe that wasn't the greatest place to have it. Might be a lot of vandalism, that kind of stuff that would
And there's a
make some
factor
changes.
there's a factor in there, they get those energy credits. And if they're not gonna get enough to recoup their money after so many years, it's not worth it for them to do the project with us. Got a little summary down at the bottom. All of our FY '26 budget calculations included a one-time salary adjustment for Public Works Management as listed as follows. Public Works salaries for the managers come out of 9 departments. And this would be a total of $30,000. This would be in addition to the annuals, which will be coming in FY '26, but all those have already been calculated and are on the budget sheets. So that would be our other ask that we're doing for Public Works. Have any other questions? If not, I'll get these corrections made to the summary, and if you want, I can email those back out. But all in all, the budget sheets are usually what are correct, as opposed to me transposing numbers when I'm typing them out. But if there's not anything else, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Good job. It's not due till 10 o'clock. Do you guys want me to reach out to Pam or Monica or Tom and see if they could come, since we've got some extra time? I can do that if you want.
We've got a roadway and vehicle maintenance packet.
From the road use tax budget in front of us as well. Who's supposed to be going over that one? I just have multiple copies of it, and that's what threw me for a loop that I had. Oh, that's what the confusion was. It was stapled with the airport one. It was stapled with the airport one, and then we got it. I had like 3 copies of it, and so I'm like, I still have. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I remember talking about the airport. It's stapled with the airport one. And I got 3 copies. Well, I mean, that's where a lot of questions come from. All right, I'm good now. Good luck with a second, huh? Was that the last one we just did? She's got it, okay.
Guys, there's, donuts and coffee and all that. There's really good.
I honestly, we have.
Mike, Michael, do you need anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Manuel, more coffee?
And I didn't have live basketball today until 10. I had it at 8.
What they need is a big donation to the city. Yeah, that's. So, the Harvard grant they have there in March. And then, no, actually, the next one we're gonna have is, so they're- Going down the hill, you mean, or? Yeah, we can run that. We kind of probably do that. Sit down and, let's check it out. For what's the place? I don't know, I was doing last, that's long, We're gonna find that out. We don't want to be that. We're doing that. We gave like more space. Oh, right. No, that's not. How many years have you been doing that? How many years have you thrown capital? Because they need so much. I got some ideas. For the election. That there is a subject, it's a wastewater. Probably. You should probably. We had a meeting. For engineer. Right. That would be a Tom question. I think he said they're moving in the right direction. Who is it? You could always do. At least they took you out of all this.
There's a huge line, you know.
I think I was trying to.
They are. They was a big mistake, but they're gonna keep it coming.
They lose so much.
No one wants to get rid. And increasingly more than less everywhere. And, yeah, there's. You need person. They try to run everything. We're the poverty belt here. We're not the same school. And it's just, it costs a lot. Great job.
Also, on board, it's like a long show.
Here.
Yeah. No, Brian, been my contact.
Gary Sway. 77, 78.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay. Now we have Pam's here and, thank you for coming in. Brian was quicker than we anticipated.
Casey's on her way, so,
Okay.
we'll just start with mine. The only thing I'm gonna start out with is, it's not this year's budget, but I have less than 2 years left before I retire. So, I'm sorry, I'm leading with that. I'm just saying that I have 2 years left, less than 2 years before I retire. So year, 8 months. So, just throwing it out there, if you guys want to restructure this position, whatever, you feel like, I mean, we can have discussions, but I spend probably 60%, 70% of my time on the building side of it. I do think that, and I don't want to throw anything on the fire department or, I'm sorry, Gabe, but they do help with inspections, but it's a possibility that maybe, that role could be pushed over to them somewhat if there's time and have enough employees. And I'm not talking all of it, but it's a lot of time I spend on that, portion of it.
How much do you know as far as software and apps? that could take up some of that?
We have permitting software. It really, honestly, the one we have hasn't saved any time. It's actually taken more time. We still have a year and I don't know, July will be another year we have on the contract with that. So I just haven't been real happy, and we haven't reached out also to the company that much to see if there's other things that they can do for us. I know Casey does not like her software at all. Anyway, that's just to lead with.
What's the name of that software?
iWorks.
Okay.
It's just, it just seems like it doesn't transfer information. So when somebody submits an application, you have to retype it into the system, and then you have to, like the addresses and stuff, you'd think they would just come on into the system, but they don't. You retype those. So it's like, it's not really saving any time. Paper version is a lot quicker. So unless we can find something, it's nice for tracking, but as far as actually getting things going, it's not. And it's not very flexible. So as far as, I don't believe I raised any of my line items for anything.
Which one are we looking at first?
We're looking at building zoning.
Building and zoning. Thank you.
Yep, sorry about that. I haven't raised anything. Let's see, is there any particular item that you guys would like any other information on? Payment to other agencies, that actually is regional planning. Most of that is for our Council of Governments, the per capita dues. That's like about $10,000 of that. And they do a lot of work for us as far as grant writing. Professional fees, that's for just code revisions. That's mainly what's in there. We can also do some architectural, I mean, if I need help with a structural thing on a building, I will reach out to an engineer. Other than that, my software, the 8,300, that will cover, I think our software is $8,400. Half of that is Casey's, half of that is mine. And then the remaining is just like GIS, that type of stuff. It's actually the geographical spatial information. And it is, Michael and I actually use that quite a bit. Sewer department, they pay most of that. I'm going to pick some of that up this year, but we had a $600 contract with Schrog. They actually, I think we've been far enough into our sewer program that we're going to cut that down to $300 a month. And so we're going to cut that in half here after this contract is up. Not this 8,300, but the contract with Schrog. Mine is pretty simple, guys. I do want to mention that the state was down the other day, walked through the 600 block project. It's amazing. I think they're going to have an open house next month. So the city of Keokuk has put quite a bit of money into that with the developer. And I think that, you guys should come and take a look at it when they have their open house. It's amazing. The work that Moorfield has done with that. Instead of us having to take $400,000 to take it down, we've got 14 units that he can rent out, and they're really nice units.
What's the timeline to when those are going to start going for lease?
I'm sorry?
Do you know the timeline until those are going to be available?
They should be, the fire department walked through Thursday, for a final. They found a couple things that needed to be addressed. So I'm going to say within a week, they should be up and going.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, Pam. Great job.
Good morning, you guys.
Morning, Case.
So I have the budget for housing, which is basically nuisance. I sent out an email yesterday afternoon late, in regards to some of the just basic, things that we've accomplished over this last year. So it kind of gives you an idea where a lot of the money, goes that I use for nuisance abatement. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? Or I could, here in a minute, I can pass this around to everybody. Would you guys just like me to start with the first line, or is there any specific question you guys want to start with?
Yeah, I guess, do you, anything that you have a change on, either an increase or a decrease?
Yes, I would, let's see, really no decreases, a lot of holding steady. But the line item that was before, like service, temporary labor, housing, and then the line that is the professional services, they got combined, so that may look really radical. So those two numbers that used to be like, let's see, 62,000 and 150,000, they came together. So what I'm asking for in a new budget is $270,000, which, that being said, is still, I would like about $58,000 more, because I'd like to put 50,000 more into where we can accomplish some more demos, or we accomplish a rehab of structures that maybe should not be demoed. We should give it some more life, and that's typically going towards the roof. And we all know that, say that we do get the 50,000 additional to where we was with demo, or what we kind of professional service we was thinking, that's a couple, 2-3 roofs. I mean, you know what I mean? Like $50,000 in a roof. It just depends on, if it needs, the trusses and the, like if it's just the, what materials we need for sure. So that's 3 structures that may be able to be either where the city owns them and, we put those back out, and then we gain ground with taxes, and maybe, we break even really well. So that's why you're seeing that I'm asking for an additional 50,000. The other 8,000 that I want is for nuisance abatement, that being like the small tasks that get done that impact each block in town. $8,000 really for the whole town to increase on nuisance abatement, which that's cleanup, securing, mowing. Maybe we can even go out a little further with being like an event, that we put into a neighborhood quarterly, a dumpster. So then it's in their neighborhood, and they may have somebody that can help them get it, to the trash faster. So that's my big request, I guess. And no, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not when you think of the miles of streets and yards and the thousands of people that we're trying to help. Other than that,
let's see, my publications went up, but that is because I record a lot to the county. We put stuff in the paper. We're hoping to put more items in the paper with vacant property. We needed that line item to go up.
What number is that, Casey?
That one is 6402,
Okay.
and yeah, going to the county. That's everything else really stayed level. I did ask for $500 more in education. I feel like there's more I could do. I've kind of been pretty stagnant, so I haven't used historic educational options, and I'd like to use them more, make more time to do that. But that's where we're at. Did you guys get a chance by chance to read the email with some of our numbers? No, that's okay. I was late yesterday when I did it. So this last year, we had to mow about 170 different parcels. That's people that didn't comply with the mowing were 10 inches or more. That was leaving us at about 780 mows for the whole season. So of those 170 yards, we may have mowed once or twice, or we may have mowed 8 times, because we all know that we typically mow our yard every week after May. A lot of people don't. And it stresses out the neighborhoods that this is in. The year before, so there's a comparison where you hear 780 this year, there was 700 and about 68 the year before. So we're running pretty much, the same problems. Cleanups this year, we did approximately 55. So that's pretty good. Some of them were super small. I mean, I can't say that necessarily it was more than a couch and a mattress, but some of them were just literally people's whole lives were in their yard or on their porches. And we have that too. We did approximately 25 secures, which that doesn't necessarily mean 25 different structures. That could be repeats, because a lot of times, just a few just make it bad for everybody, and then they just keep coming back to that one property. So we spend a lot of time on a handful of properties sometimes.
Casey, what is a nuisance secure?
I was just gonna ask how that's different than a cleanup.
Okay, so a nuisance secure is like, say, a window is broken, a door is open. That's the structure that is not occupied is unsafe. Passerby is kids, animals, curiosity of even adults, could put them at risk. What? Yes, yep, exactly. Sometimes it'll be like even fencing off something, but not very often. So like 1318 Main, the back of that building, it's not to where I can secure it with boards. So it has we did a snow fence perimeter that came to fail. Those are just very temporary options. We had to go into an actual metal fence with post. So that came to be because that's going to be a long-standing problem probably. Hopefully we can address it here in the next year to 2 at the most. But those are secures. And then we have, let's see, the good part is we have some recovery of some funds that go out of nuisance. It just goes into the general fund. So this is just a little bit of tracking where the invoices don't get paid 30 days. So we send a lien to the county. The county then collects with taxes. And we got back about 25,000 in a year's amount of time from those nuisances. So when I asked for that 58 more, we're seeing some come back. It's not balancing out totally. It's not like a wash, but. And then for going to court, we've recovered, this isn't enough, but we have recovered $13,000 in a year's time. We go to court on vacant properties, repeated nuisance properties that I can't control without just we'll do a cleanup. We'll try every effort before we go to court on those, but sometimes we just have to go to court. Or if they flat refuse me to go for a cleanup, it's not a safe situation and they're in complete denial, then I have to go to court and get an order.
Casey, are those fines?
Those are fines.
Those are fines,
Those are
correct?
fines recovered. There is another means that hopefully we can work into with some wordage on our ordinance. It's Iowa offset or set off, where people that are fined, that money can be collected with a code that the state of Iowa has. So, but it is a lot of, we make another file, it's on file for 6 months. When they either win the lottery or, some money comes into the government, they recognize that and then they shoot it back to local communities. So if we have said, hey, we have money that we need from these people. I can go into more specific detail if you guys want to meet about that. Demolitions, this year, pretty much the city's had about 20 vacant property demos. 14 of them have been private demos. So with the vacant property registration, people in the community have stepped up and done what is theirs to do. The other 6 approximately is what the city has done in nuisance demos. And we got a long way to go with that. Again, that's why I'm asking for more money in the whole nuisance section. Whether we stabilize or we get down so our neighborhoods can be worth more and safer. In the vacant property, there's approximately 270 vacant properties. And that may be lots that, we mow, or that may be structures that are like a whole house, or it could be that it's just a garage or a shabby shed. So that's what we have for vacant properties. And honestly, there's probably more than 270. That's just that we're working through right now. It's an evolving, changing thing. A house can come vacant in a short amount of time, surprisingly. We have of the vacant properties, when we send out a message to them, they really get a good amount of time to get themselves moving forward in an action and a presence. Right now, we probably have approximately 29 permits out for various levels of progress and activity of repairs, hoping to get them back to the purpose of whether they were a business or a dwelling or just a maintained storage building. Which one of the things that we could do better is some of our wording and make some adjustments on our vacant property. Since we've had it, we've learned some things that we could improve. One example is buildings that were commercial or in a certain zone, they're used as warehouses, and they're really not up to, the community's need for a standard. So that's something that we could work on, probably with our vacant registration. About 20 houses that were vacant have sold over time. So, that's an exemption for when they are registered, that if they get on MLS and they get sold, there's an extension of time for it to get life again. So those 20 exchanges of property, some of them actually are stall tactics, and some of them are legitimate opportunities for rehab or demo. Let's see. Right now, we have about 10 that are in that MLS, which is multiple listing service, where our local agents are actually getting the opportunity to help with that, which we appreciate them actually grabbing onto these properties in deficit, because it's not the easiest or most profitable thing for them. Current registrations, it sounds low, but we have 50. When you add all these numbers together, it is progress. Right now, over time, since we almost started this whole endeavor, this number is high. We've had 127 cases in court for vacant property. And the ones that go to court, like I said, we've recovered about $13,000. There's still money that we'll recover. That penalty is still on them. When that properties transfer, when they're actually sold with warranty deeds or the correct process, not just quick claims, that fine should stick on them. I'm reviewing that again with James Dennis, but that penalty should be holding on. So we should recover at some point. But that's something I'm really digging in with Jim to make sure eventually we're seeing this citation court process. And right now, the last thing is For 2025, I've got about 69 new notices out, telling people, hey, it's gonna be time again, to register your property or get moving on it to make it better. And there'll be more coming, but we're in a decent place for starting 2025 with, saying, hey, let's go again. That's it, unless you guys got questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Great job.
You're welcome. I like my job.
Casey?
For the mows, do you know how many seniors are?
I like the demographics of the age and poverties and stuff, and local and not local. We're trying on that. I don't have anything that I could, Pam and I both spend a lot of time like having conversation and knowing our community. So we can do something like, yeah. We definitely are aware of that, and we work the best that we can with that. You know, we're super generous with, we even sometimes do like a voucher, you know, and we know a lot of the seniors, the problem is they're not actually getting out of the house physically and making some of these messes. Some of their friends and maybe, you know, the bundle of everybody that's living together in these days, are making that mess and then not holding responsibility and putting the one deed holder in a pickle. Like it's rough. I mean, but they're making the mess, they could clean it up. So that's where they still have a bill coming to them. But whatever we can do, there's always room for change.
Okay, Monica, are you ready? Pam's already gone. We're way,
Okay, you're really quick then.
we're
Okay,
like,
I'm ready.
like we're way ahead.
Yeah, that's all right.
Can you believe it?
Well, that's good for you guys, right?
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Case.
Okay, seconds. Everybody a second. They all have this, right? Okay.
You got me a copy of that? You have that?
Okay,
Give it here, I'll copy it.
okay, well. It's all the 0, 0, so it's just to show you where I moved money around. Do you want to wait for that then? Okay. We have six full-time employees. Not right now. We do have that in our budget for it. We used to have high school students that were pages, but since COVID, it's been kind of hard to bring those back in. We kind of absorbed those duties. And so we have a couple prospects that we're looking at because it would be helpful to have a little extra on some days. You know, they used to have that program, but again, it's been a long time since they called us because we had several workers that came from that, and then they paid them through their system, and that allowed them to make some money and us to save some money. So we could check into that again to see if they still offer that program. Thanks. So basically what Kathy just handed out is where I increased some line items and decreased others. But the net increase request still comes out as zero. So it just moved money around to categories that it needed to be in. I made it easier for us to combine things into that line item. I've been working on that for a couple years to try and get those more streamlined. So we can either go through each line or however you guys want to do it.
Yeah, just verifying that, I think that's 6210,
For subscription.
the increase of $50 your very
Oh, I
first
could,
one.
yeah, I could have.
Because that'd be your
Yep, sorry,
subscriptions,
yep,
right?
6210, yep.
Okay.
I'm just making up numbers, so, you know. I have my own line items, you know. Celeste will call me and say, what are you doing? Why that there is. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so we can just go through those ones I'm changed. So on 6210, I increased that a little bit. We do a subscription to ALA and it runs, it was 160 last year, so I just budgeted 150 for this year. So that gives me a professional development with them. And then training, I reduce that because most of the stuff we don't pay for anymore. It's all online, which is why there's also no travel. So I changed those around. And then 6310 stays the same. 6320, we pay our janitorial, our windows, reliable, which is our, they come in and they do the bathroom deodorizers, and then there's a little bit for outside landscaping. So that increased a little bit. Databases I lowered because it's kind of hard to get people to use those in this area. So we thought those funds would be better somewhere else. So we kept the ones that are really good. We have a World Food one and Newsbank, which is the Daily Gate City one that they can research by text only, that a lot of people who are doing genealogy look for. Electric, you know, that's just a shot in the dark. We increased that by about 2,000 and we'll see how that goes. And the telephone, when I added up, was a little bit of increase of $50. 6410. Last year, I talked with Celeste and we combined public relations with programming, which we do a lot of, but we try and do it very economical. So that is why there is a little bit of decrease in that one because it was more a reflection of how that ended up being at the end of last year. 6415. I flipped this one with 6419. So the computer services now does internet, hotspot internet, our Acronis security, Microsoft. So that goes in there. And then the computer supplies is actually computer repair and replacement because we don't have any computer supplies. So I asked them to change the names a little bit. And then 6499, which is contractual payments. I moved some stuff that wasn't being paid out of that, like a maintenance contract and the leases on the copy machines into that category, which is the increase on that line item. And then reduced a little bit in adult books to kind of get those funds in the other areas. Supplies and copy, I moved some stuff into there from miscellaneous to better reflect what's being spent there, to more itemize it than just miscellaneous, because not everybody likes a category that's just like, it's whatever we wanted to spend it on, right? Let's see, circulation was the same, postage stayed the same, a little bit less in the juvenile books as well. Magazines and newspapers, they are dropping, they stayed the same, but we do our microfilm, and we have the Quincy paper, the Democrat, the Hawkeye, and the Register. We do get the Gate City as a complimentary copy for us. So, and then audio, janitor, and then the miscellaneous changed a little bit. So that was the reasonings behind those changes for you.
Yeah, she's got a lot of math errors there.
What?
That's all right. 6373 is an increase of $50, not an increase of 1,850. You just copied over the whole budget amount, not the difference amount there.
Oh, well, see, I had to do that a couple different times, so sorry.
Yeah, and then 6415 is a decrease of 7,500. 6419 is an increase of 7,500. Those two cancel each other out.
Right. This maybe,
Um,
maybe what I gave you was the old sheet, sorry. On the thing.
Yeah, instead of 4,300, it's 7,500.
Yeah, I had to redo that one, so I could have brought the wrong copy on that. That's my bad. Here's the right one. I thought I got rid of that one. Still had that one number wrong, but yeah, I do have it right on this sheet, so we can do that one. But
You have 6331 listed twice, so the first one should be 6320
yeah,
with an increase of 1,150.
right. Okay, well, there's still a couple. Just, keep you guys on your toes, that's what it is. Just in the numbers, yeah. Here, I can, if you got a pen.
Is this one I need a copy now? Here, I got a pencil. You have to use my pencil. I'm a pencil pusher instead of an ink pen
You say
person.
21%? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was 10,
6210.
and then 63. Uh, 50. 20. The amounts. Okay. As we went over it, we did it again, and I thought I got rid of all the old copies, sorry. But then she'll have the right one. Anything else on anything? Sorry about that. Just discard the old ones. This one will show the 7,500, the 7,500 and that, so.
Is the library county part of yours? The last page?
It is, that generally is an in and out. We can talk about it though, if you want to.
Like it looks like the large print went from 0 to 3,500.
So in a change in how the county distributes the money, we used to have a combined Lee County Libraries account. And so all of that, those rotations, we have several rotations that are shared between the 5 libraries, and that went into that account. We paid those out of those checks. Now the county is issuing those funds to the library that takes care of it. So we are responsible for the large print rotation, and we got that notice late last year, so Celeste had to put it into the books. And so this year, she made a line item for the large print rotation, so it won't reflect on the adult materials on that.
Did anything else change on here?
They did
drastically?
reduce us
Yeah.
late last year in their budget process, the whole Lee County Library System by about $50,000. So our the money that we get here is actually 11.5, which is a reduction. And then the money that we shared with the other libraries went away completely. And so, yeah, so we were cut that. So the new amounts in the budget will reflect that as well. It was just too late to get those in last year because the county was behind. But those those funds will all get spent throughout the year and they don't carry over or anything. So you guys are just
So are those funds separate or are they in your library total?
in
I'm
the
confused.
first total,
Yeah.
they're not. So not in the city budget.
So
In
they're
the
separate.
total, when you guys will print it, it will come out that it's in there.
Okay.
But the actual city budget is 594,911.
The decreases that we put in there, are they decreasing the quality of service that we're providing in the library?
No.
You're satisfied that you're still delivering the quality product that everybody's used to?
We try really hard with what you give us. We're not going to say no to more money, but we're coming off that 3 years of 20,000 each year that we've been cut. So we just towed the line this year. The board felt that, we could be okay this year on not asking for an increase. So. We get the same as the other city employees. Yeah. I don't increase them. I haven't increased them extra because, we'll get is it 4.5, 5% or whatever we're doing this year. That's estimated 5. Yeah, that's the same.
So when I add up numbers on the updated summary, we are a little off. You actually have an increase of 16,250. So you do actually have an increase of $1,800. If the numbers that we just got now, you add them up,
She
your
still,
decrease numbers are right, but your increase.
no, there was still a typo on it with 6373 at 1850 instead of at
Shoot.
50. So that 1800 you eliminate.
Which one is that?
6373.
Okay.
You put your total budget amount, not your increase amount there. The increase was just
Okay,
$50.
that's right. Yep. That one didn't get changed on the updated, so we're all right. My mistake.
I'll send someone else next year. So we're back on even, right? With your numbers too. I'll fire my assistant, of which I don't have, so, yeah. Now that I've screwed everybody up totally.
Anybody? Thank you very much,
All right,
Monica.
thanks.
Great job.
No, it wasn't. Don't be complimenting this. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Good weekend.
Thanks, Tom.
All righty, those are the line items that either increased or decreased. And if we want to go at it and look at it that way by each one. Okay. Okay, we'll start out with 6230 training. That increased $4,000 due to training, mostly CDL schooling and certification for our newest operator. 6320, property maintenance. This is the biggest one. And some of these may be in capital projects. Property maintenance. And we've put things off for a while due to budget constraints in previous years. Our hazardous gas detection, we've got units on each of the buildings that could produce hazardous gases, and they don't function anymore. And I've got 2 bids for that, but of course the bids are only good for a certain amount of time, 30 days, maybe 2 months, but I got some pretty good bids on those. Plumbing, gas vent, and the lab. When we got our last set of improvements down at the plant, I don't know how it happened. I wasn't in charge of those at all. I just observed. And evidently, when they vented in the lab for the sewer gas, they didn't run it up through the roof. They just ran it above the drop ceiling and let it stay there. So sewer gas accumulates inside that buildings. And in the summertime, we get a load of septic and it's pretty bad. And so I would need to get that fixed. We didn't even know where it was coming from for a long time. About 2 years ago, we had a big leak, a large pipe that conveyed our return sludge back to our aerobic digester broke. And we notice this, a lot of times we'll notice these underground pipes break because stuff seeps up from the ground. And Keokuk contractors came down and dug it up, and it was a large pipe. It looked like somebody just took the pipe and just snapped it in half. There was a clean break, thank goodness. And we're able to put a sleeve around that, a saddle, and fix it and bury it. And it's running fine now. But it destroyed, we had to dig up a lot of asphalt pavement in back of one of the buildings. And it'd really be nice because occasionally we have to run a fork truck to lift things in and out of the secondary building. And right now it's just the coarse gravel that they have to drive over. So we're looking to get that blacktop repaired. We're going to have another grit basin cleaning, cleaning out the abundance of solids that build up in our grit due to mostly lime that's come down into the plant. And finish up our hoop building that the city owns out in some farm ground where we store our sludge before it's spread. And the increase in that is somewhat roughly $85,000.
Tom, do you have estimations on the cost for each of those listed projects?
I couldn't get, I talked to Tom Beard, and I couldn't get an exact on the blacktop, but I have some bids, the two bids for the gas detection. One came in at 22,450, and the other one came in at 36,200. First one was
22 and 36. And that's on the gas vent?
the detection.
On the
Hazardous gas,
what?
hazardous gas detection. We monitor for hydrogen sulfide, methane, oxygen percentage, and I believe carbon dioxide. Right, right, right. And I haven't got a bid on that yet. Grit basin cleaning, we've cleaned out our grit basins quite a bit. It depends on the level. This one I'm looking to run probably about $12,000 to $14,000 due to inflation and the amount that it's filled up.
Can you go back to those bids you were talking about?
Sure.
What were those?
Okay, the first one was 22,450.
Is that for the hazardous gas detection?
Yes, and that's equipment. That's just the equipment. And the other one, the second one was $36,238.83.
Oh,
I don't have one yet. I was talking to Tom Beard, and a lot of times, I think they get their asphalt when it's available, kind of like a supplier, and they'll ask them, hey, do you need any asphalt? And he'll say yes or no, and I don't know what the cost of the asphalt is.
So what does that 36,000, which one does that cover?
That's gas detection.
That's part of, oh, that's, okay, that's still part
That's
of
one
the
of the
gas
gas
detection.
detections.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
got two bids for the same project.
Okay.
Right.
but they're $14,000 a piece, basically. So you got one
Apart.
bid for 22,000 and then one bid for 36,000,
Yeah.
both
Yeah,
for the
there's-
hazardous gas detection.
Right. There's a big difference. And when I heard the difference, it's like, well, I think I know which one we'll probably go with, but I wanted to have an idea.
So the blacktop, you just need like the asphalt repaired, you said?
Yeah.
Is that something that our street department or anybody can work, we can help with that?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that we don't have to have somebody else come do it?
Correct.
Do you have an estimate on the plumbing gas vent and the hoop building?
No, I haven't. The hoop building, it should be, right now, we've got the total bill of $25,500, and they've done about half the work, and I told them to put a stop to it, just because we didn't have money available, and then we bring it up for this budget. But what they have done, I believe, is 16,500, and this is B&B Livestock. They were the only ones that I could find that would come and even look at it. And this all started back before we had the purchasing policy in place. It was under the old purchasing policy, so we went ahead and got it going. But due to their time frame, and then we had to work around crops being in and out, and when we could start it, it didn't get started until last fall. And then when it came in, the first half more expensive than what we were thinking. We just needed to put a stop to it and pick it up when we have money budgeted for it. A lot of that I could have picked up, absorbed out of a different account, but didn't think we ought to do that.
So those are basically your capital requests that you would like to see done this year?
Yeah,
This 6320?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in priority,
Priority?
priority, which ones would be priority?
Um, the hoop building and the grit basin. We have to have the grit basin cleaned out. Um, we could wait until July to do this, but preferably we do it as soon as weather permitted this spring. And I know that wouldn't fall into the next year's budget, but odds are we're going to clean the other basin when it's cleaned out after we divert flow to the one that's freshly cleaned. And I don't know how much that's going to be. It shouldn't be near as much as this.
Do you have the money in this year's budget to do that?
Yeah.
To do the grit basin cleaning?
Yep.
And you probably have money in this year's budget to fix the gas vent, the plumbing vent?
Yeah.
Because that should
It
be
shouldn't be
pretty
too
much just an
much.
extension of the pipe and then either run it through the wall or the ceiling, am I correct?
Ceiling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to include it though, because it's something we've been needing to do. There's also another cost that's coming up, and I didn't have it in this. I don't know why I overlooked it, probably because I saw the roof. But our digester building, our press building, needs a new roof. About a year and a half ago, we had it patched, and we we're hoping that patch would last until this next budget. And it didn't, and we lost equipment, at least, I want to say a $6,000 or $7,000 piece of electronics due to that leak. And it was going to be part of this, but it's not. I got a bid yesterday on it, and as a rough estimate, it was going to be $89,000. And that's with from CCS. And when we get closer to the new budget coming out in July, I was going to solicit more bids and see if we can get it done cheaper.
And is that just from age or is that potentially from storm damage or something?
No, it's age.
It's just age.
It's given us problems through the years. And before I took over, I know it was patched probably twice before that. And the place where it leaks consistently is right above the office where the fragile electronics are.
Okay.
And we've tried to string a tarp over. It's like a building inside of a building. And we put tarps over that, and it just doesn't work. And it suffered damage because of it.
So is that on this, on your budget request or change? That 11,000?
No, it's not.
So is that going to be?
The 89,000 you mean for the new roof?
That's not included in this 85
No, it's
up
not.
here?
I was kind of hoping it would be. I didn't expect it to come in at 89,000, but I was going to lump it in with that.
So would that be, is that maintenance or capital? Anybody?
What'd you say, Kathy? What?
Well, that 11,000 for this roof that he's talking about is not on this paper. It's
Right.
not on his budget stuff. And I'm asking if it could be capital or if it's maintenance. If it's a whole roof,
How much was the price of the roof again?
$89,000.
89. Yeah.
oh, not 11, 89?
No.
No,
And that's the whole entire roof?
that's the whole roof.
Okay, so is this capital or is this?
Capital.
Capital.
That's capital.
Okay, and it's not on here?
No,
Okay.
So then would you say your priority is now this roof?
yeah,
And so not the hoop building or the cleaning?
correct. The cleaning is going to happen, and I can absorb the cleaning out of a different account.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a safety net. Sewer gas shouldn't be coming out of the side.
Yeah, I know.
That should be a priority.
Okay.
You don't have any idea what that is?
What's that?
You don't have any idea what the price for that is?
No, I don't think it'd be more than probably $8,000. That's just to correctly vent that through the roof. 8,000?
I thought he said 80. I thought he said 80, and I'm like, wait a minute. Everything 80.
I wouldn't think it'd be that much. If you're just talking extending the pipe, I wouldn't
think it would be too much.
I would be surprised if it was that high. I mean, Steve would be the plumbing expert, but realistically, you're talking about extending probably a 3-inch pipe.
What's that?
So, back to the 6320. If the gas vent could be done on this budget, and the basin cleaning can be done on this budget, then those two things need to come out of there, because
This is the next budget. Yeah.
if it can be done before July, or if any of those can be done on the budget you have now, probably we should pull those out. So, because if you're going to have an $89,000 roof, and I know that this hoop building, you've already spent 16, and you're going to have to spend more. So if those two things could be done in this year's budget without going way over or huge amendments or anything like that, then I would suggest that happen. And then your budget for this rest of this stuff comes down some, or any of these things that can be done. I don't know if like your hazardous gas detention for 22,000 can be done this year too. I don't know.
Maybe
Probably
you
not,
could
not the gas.
start by looking at the current budget and seeing how much you have left
Right
in
now,
there to use, and then let us know which ones you're gonna do before the new year, before the new budget.
I'm thinking we're about 4.5% under budget with this current budget we're in right now. So that's kind of what I was looking for, not worrying about it coming out of this budget. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because right now that line item, current budget 35, you spent 23.3. So I mean, you're about $13,000 there that you've got less just in the 6320 line item. That would cover for sure the plumbing, gas, and a majority of the grit cleaning potentially out of that we could potentially take out of this year's budget to cap that one up. Is what I'm seeing in these numbers here for your maintenance. That would help alleviate some of that for next year's request. If we could take that out of this year's budget and just like Mayor said, just kind of get some of that done now.
Okay.
I'm just looking at, if it's, and I know it's an estimate, if it was 8,000 for the vent and 12 to 14,000, or if you can say 12,000 for the cleaning, then you go down here in the Palmer, you're decreasing 20,000. So if you haven't spent that 20,000 on that, maybe that's money that can be utilized to do those two.
Okay. For the next budget, correct? Okay, shall we move on to the 63,350? Okay, equipment repair, increase a frequency and cost of repairing aging equipment. And that just seems to keep going up. Some of the equipment we have is pretty old, especially our press, although it was new, we still call it the new press. It's requiring more and more maintenance. Recently, we had to put new plungers in just for belt tension, and those are kind of pricey, and I just know that there's going to be other things come up with that press and with different pumps. And down at the plant, you just never know. We've got 2 pumps that have been going for 25 plus years, and they could stop or slow down enough we'd have to replace them at any time. We just don't know, but it's hard to plan for that. And motors as well too. We did use a lot of the money that the EPA required us to invest in the plant, in our grit process, as well as the digester cleaning. We've got pretty much all new conveyance for our grit building. And so it's, should be good to go for a number of years. But it was getting old. 6373, we finally got reliable phone service down at the plant, and it's going to go down $400 just because we've got a consistent bill now.
You do have a landline in there now?
It's not a landline,
Non-line.
it's basically cell phone, cell service to each of the different phones we have, cell service to each of the different phone lines we have.
Okay.
And yeah, we set it
But there's
all
a
up.
cell phone down there that you can call into actually the plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's a cell service. It's not a cell phone. They're regular desk phones with all the, you can transfer calls to different departments, put people on hold, but it's a cell service. So we don't have to rely anymore on underground lines as they deteriorate. And just within the last 2 weeks, we had a piece of equipment go down and we could not, Southern Cherry came down trying to diagnose why it wasn't running. And we finally figured out that there is a break or short in the line coming from one building to another from years of groundwater coming up and seeping into it. And it just compromised the conduit and the cable. And so instead of re-feeding it underground, we're running it above through the air from one building to another.
Good.
So that's probably what we're going to have to do. We probably should have done that from original construction, but I guess they didn't think about that back in the day. So we're going to do as much stuff as we can above ground to avoid that. 6489 sludge spreading, that increases every year due to it's built into the contract with LCL Farms. And that's just spreading. We haul it out to the buildings or to different fields, and then he applies it, land applies it. 6501 polymer, that's going to go down $20,000 due to decreased usage of polymer. Being ADM is no longer with us, we don't have the need that we used to. 6504, equipment, maintenance, replace gas hose. There's a gas hose on top of number 3 digester that was original and it's developed leaks. We replaced the other one on number 4 this last year. And I imagine the price of that has gone up maybe slightly, but hopefully it's not too much. And that's $11,000. $6507, just a roughly 6% increase due to inflation of $10,000. $6598, office supplies, janitor, that kind of thing. I increased it $100 just due to inflation. And then 6599, it's a miscellaneous, but that's where we take our boots and coats, things that the operators need and we have to replace occasionally. $300.
Is that a yearly allowance or is that every 2 years that
Depends. You can buy, the city provides $120 a year for new boots or $200, I believe, for 2-year boots.
Okay.
And everyone, I didn't know that you could get 2-year boots.
Okay.
But that's what that is. And coats. We just replaced one of the operators' coats. Usually they've got holes in them and everything before. You get comfortable in them. You don't want to replace them, but you need to after a while. Yeah, exactly.
Can we go back to 6230, the first one under training? And you increased it 4,000?
Yeah.
And during our budget meeting with the department, with you as a department head, you made the comment that 4,000 of it would be to get a CDL for Cassie.
Correct.
And so we need to talk about that because no other departments are allowed to use money for CDLs. We hire people from the street when like for the street department, they have to have their CDL. We don't pay for it. So we can't pay for hers if we don't pay for everybody else's. So we need to talk about that. So I don't know the history, if you want to tell us the history there.
Okay.
But if we can't pay for any other department, we can't pay for that.
Okay. Back before, I believe it was 2 years ago, I want to say it was a national law passed where to get a CDL, you had to have so many hours of training. And before that, you just went and took your test and took a driving test and you got your CDL. But after that, it got to be a lot more costly. And when it was coming about, I didn't know what all that would entail, how it would cost. And it just kind of came up and we dealt with it. But when we made our last hire, neither of the applicants had a CDL. One had progressed and was closer to getting his CDL. And if I'd have realized how much it was going to cost, I'd have that probably or could have influenced my decision. But at the same time, there are positive attributes that the other candidate had. And talking with the union representative down there, they looked at it as professional training, and that the city should pay for that because it was required for them to work. And I didn't go up against that. I didn't discuss that with them any further. And I thought that might be something as a council you might want to look at as a requirement or not. And if we should require CDL, if I should have left it open longer, I don't know. I need y'all to let me know.
Do you not have any operators down there with the certification, so no one can operate the equipment?
Oh,
or-
no, everybody has a CDL. And in the past, if you didn't have one when you were hired, and most of us didn't have one when we were hired, we had to get one within a certain amount of time. But it was easy then. All you did, like I said, was you studied for the paper test, the written test, and then you went up and took the driver's test and you got it.
So you do have other operators that have?
Yeah. But everybody occasionally has to drive a grit truck, move it out of the grit building, take it to the transfer station. The sludge truck, if someone needed to drive the sludge truck, they could. We can get by without everybody having a CDL, but it really comes in handy and it's a requirement that everybody have one.
Before it got to be $4,000, like when somebody was hired and they had to get their CDL, did the wastewater treatment plant pay for it?
There wasn't really any training involved, but
you still had to take the test.
Yeah.
Was the test paid for
to
get the certification?
As far as I know, it was. I don't remember.
It was or wasn't?
As far as I know, it was.
Okay.
But I don't remember the cost. I don't remember there being a cost.
So I've had my CDL now for almost 40 years, but I don't remember them being certifications and such that you had to have as much as you just had to have clean record and be able to pass the CDL test. So with this one, are we looking at sending them to school and like a driving school? Because realistically, we shouldn't need to do that. For them to obtain the CDL, that should still be, they have to just go pass the test at the driver's station and go through that. I mean, they got to have their real ID, and CDLs are a little more, there's a little more involved, but they shouldn't have to actually go to a driving school to do it.
It shouldn't, but it's law. It's national law now. Ye- Yes, there are. And we maintain, I believe it's a level B, Class B CDL. To move up to Class A requires more schooling. And if I were to take a Class A, if I were to go for my Class A, I'd have to go back to school and to satisfy that, the requirements. No, just Class B, just to get your basic.
So has it been a year or more since this person's hired that doesn't have it?
Just over a year.
And has it affected that person not having it? Has it affected the,
Where she would have been able to take the grit truck out, somebody else has had to do it. We haven't had a lot of traffic to where we need to do that, but being it's a requirement for the wastewater plant, it's something that needs to be done. If y'all wanted to change that to make it where it's not a requirement to have a CDL, it wouldn't hurt us. We would just have to make sure in the future that anybody we did hire does have a CDL. And it's gotten to the point where if you already have a CDL, that carries with it the demand for a higher salary, a higher rate of pay when someone's hired, because it's pretty valuable now.
If we don't require the CDL, would that affect our insurance?
Insurance, I don't know. It probably,
We just can't let them drive the truck if they're not licensed legally to drive.
right. They wouldn't drive, so it might possibly save a little bit of insurance, being the one less person to insure.
in the hiring process, I remember this part of it, in the hiring process, it was after Arleta had resigned, and part of this person that's hired's job was to help with office and computer and that kind of stuff. At the time this person was hired, was it said you have to have a CDL? Was that in her hiring contract or whatever?
No, it wasn't.
You hire a person in, not requiring the CDL at a certain weight. And you go, okay, now if you get a CDL, then you get a raise.
I'd like to see that. It'd make it a lot easier.
You're on your own to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we just hired somebody in the street department, and we put out that they had to have a CDL to work for the street department. And most of the places in public works is like that. And so then, are there people out there in the public that would have applied for some of these jobs if they realized they didn't have to have a CDL? I don't know how we can do for one department, not the other. If we're driving anything that you should have a CDL.
And it can be a slippery slope too, because we're talking about paying for someone's education.
Yes.
To be able to perform a job, so where would it end?
Yeah.
I think we should remove this item from the budget and not pay for the training. And if you have other operators that that they can do that, I would have them do that and then do what she was hired for, was the computer and the office stuff. I don't know why she's now being pushed to do something else.
She wasn't hired as a secretary. She was hired as an operator. But it was made clear that she would be everybody had to absorb part of our secretary's job. That she would help with that. Plus, she also had experience in pre-treatment when she worked out at ADM. And those were basically the things. I had to weigh all the pros and cons and qualifications, and that's what put her over the top.
So I don't think we should pay for the training.
Well, I gotta kind of echo what the mayor said. If we don't do it for any other department, we can't really do that here. And The other side of that would be is if we start doing that, how many other employees of the city are gonna, well, I'd like to get a CDL too. And then now we'd end up, because there are a lot of vehicles in the city that don't require a CDL. You know, your pickup trucks, your 4-ton trucks, things like that, the ones that don't have the CDL qualification. And there are plenty of them around. If we've got people, if she's basically the only one down there that is not capable of driving the grit truck, I don't see where that would be a challenge. And then my opinion would be offer potential of a wage increase if she would go obtain the CDL. Say, hey, you know, if you decided you wanted to do this, we would encourage that, but we're not going to pay for that. But if you do invest and you do get this CDL, then we can maybe give you a wage increase because now you would also be eligible to be doing some of the other stuff that a CDL requires.
But
I just,
we would have to talk about that first.
Well,
because
we would
you
have
don't
to
wanna
discuss
tell them to
that.
go get a CDL, but then we're not gonna be able to follow through with. the
well,
wage
right, that would be a
increase.
discussion, but I don't think we can justifiably pay for a CDL if we have not been doing that in the past, and that's not our current protocol when somebody in the department, hey, I need to increase my license, so the city's going to pay for it. It's different if it's a certification required for the job. You know, you've got to maintain your CEUs. This individual's got to maintain CEUs. That's a requirement to keep your status. That's a different conversation. But when we're talking a number of people are already able to do this, having one individual that's not, I don't think it's going to be enough to really change and cause problems and things like that.
Being part of the safety committee, I'll tell you what, I think I would require, if you have people driving those trucks, that they do have a CDL.
Well, legally, they have to.
Yeah, yeah.
They do.
And if we require it, we pay for it.
No.
I don't care if we, two wrongs don't make a right.
Wonder if you pay for it, the people last 6 months and they're gone.
Emmanuel and I were talking about that, build that into, and I don't know if it would come in the city handbook or employee handbook, or we make a contract with people when we do pay for the CDL that they either work for the city for a set amount of time, or they end up paying for the CDL training that we give them. Mm-hmm.
They leave the police department, it's prorated. What we pay for, if we pay for that and they leave, then we could put something in the handbook that prorate that back.
Right.
Tom, was she hired at the same entry level salary as someone who currently had a CDL?
Yes.
Whoa, okay.
Tom, for clarification, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So then if she does choose to get the CDL on her own, she will be out earning others at her level, right?
No, there's no pay incentive for getting a CDL.
Well, they just talked about that.
Yeah, there's some confusion going on there.
It doesn't currently exist. It was just thrown out of
Yeah.
I
as a
know,
compromise.
but if we implement it, then that would be the case, right?
Right.
Not necessarily. I think there's some confusion going on. Can you clarify, is it right now, are you saying the requirement is everyone in that department has to have a CDL, or is this person looking to get a CDL?
In the qualifications for working at the plant as an operator, people have been required to obtain a CDL within a certain amount of time.
So it is a requirement to have the CDL. Is that yes or no?
Yes.
It is a requirement.
Yes.
All right. So whether or not we agree to pay for it, she has to have it. So what happens if she can't afford to pay for it? So
I don't know. We've never faced that before. A lot of this is new ground that we're covering.
I guess why did we hire an operator then if it was required, but she didn't have one?
It was required to obtain, and that was written long before it cost so much to obtain a CDL. It was, everybody was hired, most people were hired without one, and then they worked down at the plant for a long time. And you can get a permit, and you can take those big trucks out with somebody riding with you, or you can move trucks around within the plant and get a feel for it. And in the past, we just went up and took the driving test and took the paper test and received our CDL. But with the new legislation, I want to say it's about 2 years old, maybe a year and a half, I don't know exactly. It's required that you have all the schooling in order to qualify to take the test and receive your CDL. And that's where the money comes in. It's national. I think it was probably lobbied by community colleges. That would just be my guess, because that's where most people get the training.
Was there any promise to her that we'd pay for the CDL when she was hired?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
Before her, we hired a fellow who didn't have a CDL, but he was a diesel mechanic, and he had a lot of experience with trucks and driving them. But he started his training, and he was in the process of paying for it. And then when it became evident that it was going to cost so much, we looked at it like it was part of his training, required certification. So the city, the plant paid for some of his college. I don't recall if we paid for all of it, but we paid for part of it.
But we just talked about how we don't do that. So why did they do that?
We hadn't. I was told by one of the union reps that it's part of certifications that the city, the plant required. So we needed to pay for that. And it wasn't as much because well, evidently he did pay for some because it wasn't $4,000. It was cheaper, and we could handle it in our budget. So we just paid for it.
Yeah, that's bad practice. That shouldn't have occurred if that's not what we're doing across the board for all the departments, but that's too late now.
I think right now, we're dealing with the e-hauls situation.
That's a hiring overlook.
And I think going forward, we just get better things in place. But, I think we need to deal with the situation as it is. And I mean, it sucks to say that John down the road is going to say, well, this person gets more than what I get. But right now, we're still in a situation. We got to make a decision. I think he can put better things in place to make sure that this don't happen again.
Right. We can make it a requirement. I'll make it a requirement that someone has their CDL before they're hired, in order to be hired.
Well, if that's not common practice, though, you don't have to go that extreme. It's just you can still stick to the hire, they get some experience, then they get the CDL. It's just the defining who is responsible for paying for that certification. So if they're brought on without a CDL and it's part of their contract that they get it at their expense, then that's fine. And we've been upfront about it.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay.
All right.
Tom, you got anything else for us?
So we're done talking about that. I did have some questions.
Okay.
Okay. So on 6489 for the sludge hauling, last year you only had 78,000 budgeted, but you went over budgeted and spent 90,000. And this year you're only asking for 82. So do you expect to spend 90 again? Because if that's the case, wouldn't we need to increase the budget for this year?
65. I don't see us being over last year.
Last year, we spent $90,840.80. Or did we go over budget for a reason last year?
Oh, no, that's back when they used to do the hauling as well as the spreading. And since ADM left, there's not near as much sludge. So we decided that was the reason we got our new truck, and to where we could do the hauling, and we saved quite a bit of money doing that. No, I don't believe that was taken out of that account. It should have been taken out of the other account.
Yes.
Correct. LCL Farms contracts, I assume they contract. He works it out with landowners, farm owners, and he spreads it on their property, and he has to follow certain guidelines. And we have the two hoop buildings where we can take and we can dump the sludge, and then it's his responsibility after that. And sometimes he'll just say, I'll go ahead and dump it on such and such a field, and then we'll load it and we'll spread it there. And whereas before, he had a driver and his trucks would haul it out of our plant and take it and spread it. And this was probably the 90,000. Before it would have been, I want to say 120,000 or so. So that would probably reflect about a half year of him hauling as well as spreading.
This would have been before we purchased the truck for you guys to do the hauling, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's saving us now. Some of that is because we're absorbing some of that freight cost.
Right.
Because we're doing it ourselves.
I'm thinking we're probably saving about $60,000 a year hauling it ourselves.
Okay.
So then for the line below that, 6490, the last 2 years we went over budget. So is 130 enough to budget for this year? Because last year we spent 140, or sorry, 2 years ago we did. Last year was 149. So we keep spending more than 130.
Yeah, that might,
We might,
well, we've only spent 35,000 this year, so.
we've spent 66,385 and 12 cents. The line below sludge hauling, 6490 for professional fees.
Okay, I've only got 35. Oh. Okay, that's probably that. I just didn't want to spend that much.
But we keep going over budget,
Yeah.
and last year we decreased it, and then we spent even more. We spent 149.
Yeah.
And we decreased it by 15,000, but we have consistently for the last 2 years not spent anything below 140,000. Are we still working with the contracting company on the permit fees and everything?
Oh, yeah.
And that comes out of, does that come out of that line item?
With our consultants,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going on right now. We're doing the sewer separation, the first flush, and some of that has come out of that. Depends on who gives us their invoice, whether it's one consultant or the engineers. I can narrow that down and take it out of our sewer separation budget. We've already spent about $150,000 out of that. I think we have $101,000 left. And we just had a meeting with the engineer Thursday, and Keokuk Contractors, and Keokuk Contractors is putting together a bid and deciding whether or not they can utilize the structure at 3rd and Des Moines, or if they're going to have to put in a different kind of basin or box, is what they called it. And we're waiting to hear from that.
So this expended number 66, and you may have answered that, and I didn't. Is that through December then? Is that basically through the end of the year? Is the current year expended at 66,385? Is that? So, I mean, that's what I mean. Is this number you're thinking through November or through December? So this is like probably 6 months, give or take? So if we doubled that, we would be pretty close to what we're thinking we'd spend in a year, so almost 140 again.
Mhm.
And that's why I agree with Chris. Should we maybe even though we don't want to spend that, should we increase that to at least allow for that so we don't continue to go over?
Okay.
Maybe make that one 140 and just try to keep that for all purposes, try to stay within that. That way it would look better if we don't continue to go over.
So the project that's going to be done for the sewer separation over on Third and Des Moines, we want to I don't think we want to take money out of that to fund something else.
No.
That's going to be a huge project.
Yeah. But I'm thinking part of this, some of the fees, they don't separate, like if Dr. Askew consults us for that, he just bills us time for the city. Now, whether it was consulting with pretreatment or consulting with the sewer separation, he doesn't separate that in his invoices. And I could separate them more and maybe paint a better picture.
Well, and I'm wondering if maybe we could just move money. So if you look at your line item 6380, you've got current budget and you're asking for 16,000, but you've only spent just under 3. So if could we move potentially some of that money to line item 6490 and just change some of those numbers? Your overall wouldn't change, but if we're not needing necessarily 16 for the miscellaneous, we could absorb some of that maybe in 6490, and it wouldn't actually change your overall, but just change it in some of your line items and figure out where to get that $10,000 and change the professional fees to 140. And so then like some of the other ones, potentially move that a little bit. That way we wouldn't on the line item. I mean, overall, you're not necessarily messing your budget up, but on a line item, it would look better if we didn't continually go over.
Right.
Especially when you've got some of the other ones where we're considerably way under,
Yeah.
maybe absorb some of that.
6380, it's miscellaneous, and I was looking, last year, our backup water line coming into the plant broke, and it was basically under the flood wall, and Lewis Excavation came in and dug it up, and it was outside of our plant, and trying to figure out who was going to pay for it and what we were going to do. Jason was involved quite a bit with that, and they dug down and they found, I didn't know that they'd found, but they did find the breach, and then it was covered up. They covered it back up because for the most part, as far as I knew, we never used that backup line. But when the weather got cold this last week, our main line coming into the plant, it comes down the hill from Ridge Street, I think it was 3rd and Ridge, there was a breach. And so they had to dig it up, and they called me, and they didn't know if they were gonna have to shut the water off or just slow it down. Well, luckily they slowed it down. But when we were talking, he said, that is why you need to get your backup line fixed. And it's like, okay. So I was looking to put that $16,000 towards that in the springtime when we're able to deal with that. But it doesn't mean we can't use that money to shift around.
Let's not
but that's
confuse
for
this
month.
budget versus next budget, though.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So we can do that. A lot of times it's hard to foresee something happening, a water main break outside the plant or a pipe breaking due to whatever, and I try to budget for that as best I can. I just hard to foresee.
Okay, guys, any more questions? All right. Thank you, Tom. Do you have anything else you need to tell us?
Yeah, just real quick. 5 years ago, we had a nutrient reduction study done that was under EPA directive. And Veenster and Kay did that out of Des Moines. And the conclusion they came up with, since it was so costly to do anything, the EPA okayed that we come back and revisit it and do another study in 2025 this year, and it's due September 1st, on or around September 1st, but they looked at it being all right until December. And Dave Scheckinger, the engineer that was down here on Thursday, asked what I wanted to do with that. If I wanted him to take into consideration what's been done with the CSO separation in the first flush study and incorporate that into our nutrient reduction study. I told him, yeah, go ahead and do that. So it's in the works, going to be in the works that we fulfill that and get it to the EPA. But I don't think anything new is going to come. There's some new technology that's out there that would help us decrease nitrogen and phosphorus in our effluent. And it shouldn't be that costly, but all we can do is wait until the study is done and we find out for sure. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Good job. Thank you very much. It is Saturday morning, you know. So guys, are we done or is there anything we need to discuss? What are we doing here?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
He made a motion to adjourn. Do I got a second? All those in favor say aye. Let's go home.
I don't need that right now. Even if I get him by next meeting.
I'll get it. All right. Thanks. I won't be in town next Saturday. Oh, I'll be in town. We still have to do revenues and hotel motel tax. Typically, it's the next Saturday. If we do that, I won't be here, but you're more than welcome to do it at night or next Saturday or whenever you want. Uh-oh, 2 mayors. Oh, I mean, would you rather do it on an evening?
I would, I don't know, I'm worried that we won't have enough time in the evening for hotel.
How long do you need to get?
Whatever the process is before.
So then our next process would be a meeting for revenues.
So that's.
Yes, and depending on what.
We could either do it, for example, this next Thursday is the 30th. That would be a Thursday. We could do it at night. If you want to do it on that morning, I know that Saturday morning, Mike has already said I won't be here. And or we could do it at the workshop after the next meeting, which is in February. For the revenues or the.
The revenues, I think would be okay to workshop.
Or we can do it again, like I said, on this Thursday, the 30th, whatever you guys gonna do.
Let's do revenues at the next workshop.
Okay.
August on the 6th.
Okay.
And then figure out.
Hotel.
What we need.
Okay.
We kind of need to know numbers so we could.
I've talked to all the